very much for joining us on this lovely Monday. Yes, like we did promise you last week on Friday that come 10th of August, on a day like this, that we'll be back and we take you through for yet another edition of The First Show is what I'm talking about. For those of you that have just woken up, welcome to the show. And for those of you that are just streaming on Facebook, on all other social media handles, we are saying that you are welcome to the biggest show on the land. And this is the only show that informs you on how the day is going to be, and also we try to scrutinize those big stories that make rounds of headlines the previous day. Now, speaking about headlines, last week was quite a huge one, especially in the political environment, and we shall be speaking more about that on what exactly happened. My name is Simon Chris Makanga. As usual, I'm with...
And for the sports lovers, my name is Latif. Hamid. Welcome to The First Show, the show that comes your way every morning to 9 a.m. Now, for you who are seated at home and watching us from your bedroom, we say thank you for getting up and joining us on this show. And for you who is in your car and using your app to watch what is happening, we say thank you for being on your mobile phone right now, using your data and watching us. Na kwa nyinyi ambayo mnavuga gari zenu mnakwenda kazini, tunasema asante sana. Kukaa kwenye jam ambayo umekaa ndani yake lakini unatutizama, asante sana. Kwenye hiyo program tunakuwa na mengi sana. Tunaongelea mambo mengi sana, toka kwa habari ya mchezo, na tunaongelea yani mambo gani imefanyikana wiki nzima mpaka leo. Nataka kukaribisha na kuambia asante sana kuwa na sisi. A very good morning to you, Simon Chris.
Good morning, Latif Hamid.
How are you doing?
Ish.
Why ish? I mean, remember the chord of this show is wake up and smile. First things first.
I smiled already, but just looking at the way things are going on in the country, I think there's no need for me to smile for now. Otherwise, all is well. I'm not complaining either. I'm alive. God is by my side. 2020 is going on. Today is being the 10th of August. I know we'll never ever face this day once again.
Well, I've always told everybody, when life gives you lemon, make sure you make lemonade out of it and drink the hell out of that lemonade and be happy, you know, because there's nothing more to life than being happy. If you don't get what you want, we must always want what we get. You know, and truthfully in life, you never get what you want. There's something about God. He gives you what you need and not what you want. He knows what is good for you. So, I mean, when you wake up in the morning and your charger has been stolen, smile, because the rest of the day is going to be amazing. God knows you did not need the charger. You wanted it. You'll get a better charger. Amen.
Exactly. Mpozi namwe abakatwegattako neeyogera okubaanirizaako The First Show. Show gye tusuubira nti egenda kukola eby'amannyo mu nsi yattu Uganda. Show gy'olina okulaba nga naddala wakazuukuka. Tukuwa ebintu bingi nnyo, tubaamu n'ebyemizannyo, ne tubeeramu ne some bit of entertainment. And then, being a Monday, we do expect Dr. Franklin Mondo to be with us anytime sooner than later. And also, we are going to be looking at the stories that made rounds of headlines yesterday, as well as one of those that we do expect to make headlines today. Now, Latifa, speaking about last weekend, the president of Uganda created a committee that will be responsible for coming up with a manifesto, NRM Manifesto 2021-2026.
Well, speaking about the 14-member committee that was created by the president and chaired by Efrian Kamutu, the Justice and Constitutional Affairs Minister, who was also deputized by Richard Tadwong, the NRM Deputy General Secretary. Now, when they were launching this 14-people committee who will be responsible to draw the NRM manifesto, one of the important things that the president noted was that the NRM manifesto needs to be pro-people, which means no matter what they do, they need to create a manifesto that looks at the people and creates an environment where the people come first. Now, Chris, when we look at the older NRM manifesto, that's 2016-2020 manifesto, Dr. Ruhakana Rugunda, the Prime Minister, said that NRM had achieved 80% of
80.
the manifesto.
You mean Chinana?
80, yes, I mean 80% of the manifesto. And among the things that he noted that was considerably viewed by NRM as one of the places that they made a very good comeback was, he cited, among others, the commissioning of the 183 megawatts Isimba hydroelectric power dam. He also talked about reviving of the Uganda Airlines and opening of Mulago Specialized Women's Hospital. Now, a lot of opposition members have come up to say, no, 80% is an overscore of the NRM manifesto, and they talk about the lack of freedom of expression by the opposition parties. They say NRM has stifled the freedom of the opposition parties. They talk about the poor road network. They talk about the poor health system. And most importantly, they say NRM has failed to take advantage of the vast economic situation, the positive economic situation in the country. Because we remember NRM was saying one of their biggest motivations or things they need to do in 2016, 2020 is to make sure Uganda becomes every person in Uganda.
Because we are certain a middle class
yes, income. And they said they haven't achieved that either.
Indeed, they couldn't achieve that. I saw that coming. However, I want to applaud the government or the ruling party and the government of General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. At least you can look around Uganda and tell that there is really something being done by this government. The most recent one, I think, is the new road that was commissioned. That was in Amuriat. That road was the bridge that broke down in 2007. It's one of a kind that when you look at it, the bridge I'm talking about is the new Komolo Bridge in Amuria, a district along Soroti, Askimi, Moroto Road. This road, the bridge broke down in 2007. So when you look at the new project, you really tell that, yes, my government is working. When you look at the new Nile Bridge, that was that took about 700 billion. That was the contract was given to JICA. You look that, yes, however much we are doing these things on a loan basis, but at least you can tell that there's some bit of development. When you look at all our exit roads, amakubo gonna gafuluma Uganda, bobo genda South Sudan, it is tarmacked. Bobo genda Kenya, it is tarmacked. When you're exiting to Rwanda, it is tarmacked. When you're going to Tanzania, it is tarmacked. So chitegeza anti, I like what the president said, inti tusoke tukole ngudo, or we work on security, then transport, then the rest will come easily. Kuba techija kola makulu nti oberene dwaliro edungi ninga tekube litwala yo B. So I like when the president came up with that idea that let's first work on security, we work on the roads, and then the rest will come later. But however, I want to applaud the president. Okuvaina agamba nti they should design a manifesto that is pro-Ugandans. And I want to look at the biggest problem we have as a country. The biggest problem apparently is corruption.
Okay. And
let me drive this home.
Sure.
We have people that have embezzled a lot of money in this country. We have people that have literally not even embezzled but have stolen a lot of money in the name of corruption, but they can hardly invest in our country. Tuyina abantu ababye sente ze gwanga lino neyinga ne sente ze babye, they can hardly invest. Tebasobola na kuziza mu gwanga lyenyini wabula bakola business mu mawanga amalala. Kiruma nnyo okulaba nti tuyina rich people in this country, but even the needle, we have to import it from China. We have to import a laser bread in China. The petty things, can't we have those factories run in this country? At least, yes, this is a period that churches are going to become a sanctuary. Nti babye sente bagenda kuddayo ku makanisa, but I'm lucky, I'm happy that churches are not operating. And I pray they're not open as soon as we expect. Well,
eliminating corruption was number 7 on the 10-point program of His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, and truthfully, he's doing a good job because we are seeing that a lot of people have been pulled out of their offices and, you know, they're no longer in office because of corruption. So we know that the president has done that much. And, you know, corruption is one of the bigger issues that we're facing in the country, because now if you look at our health system, for me, what is important and what has been made visible by the COVID-19 situation is that now we have a problem of our health system lacking behind. And COVID-19 has come to show us that. Now, if you look at the 2016-2020 NRM manifesto and the things they wanted to do, the two things that COVID-19 has done. The first thing is to expose what NRM has done and not done. And the second thing is it has lagged NRM behind a little bit. Because when they were working on the socio-economic status of Ugandans to go into the middle class system, they got into a situation where COVID-19 came and everybody was supposed to sit down and not work for 4 to 5 months. And that only means that people became broke. Poverty was widespread. There was no people couldn't even afford to feed their families. It only shows you that there's a lack in that particular place where NRM said they'd put a stronghold. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that NRM still has to do. So the 80% projection by Dr. Rukana Rugunda is a little bit questionable, and it's true. 80% is such a big number for projection of an NRM manifesto that has a lot lacking, however, also has a lot of good points.
Yes, it's true. They have done a lot of good things for this country, but however, we can't say that they've done equally good as we do expect.
That's why I'm saying 80% is such a crazy projection.
Yes, what every Ugandan wants, even myself, where I come from, what I need is service delivery. I don't care whether you're fighting, who you're dealing with, who I hear mafia, whether you have mafias or not. What every Ugandan wants is service delivery. But it's so saddening that the government issues out all the services are supposed to be rendered to the people. But what is so saddening is that biwulira mu mikono gy'abo abatono, that I call the minority that survives at the expense of the majority. Nti abantu abatono ennyo are surviving at the expense of the majority. Nti ekitu service yandibadde y'abantu 10, abantu 2 oba omuntu omu abeera nga enjoyinga. So if we can get rid of those people, that means this country is going to be a good one for everyone. And that is the biggest challenge that has been faced by the NRM government. Well,
again, let's hope that the president uprooting the corrupt officials that he's talking about will change the service delivery in the country.
Recently, I think it was Wednesday last week, when he was launching social media as a means of fighting corruption, he said that the Nakalema team, the State House Anti-Corruption Unit, has been infiltrated by the thieves themselves. Omukukunavu bayita ba mafia. Nti bayingidde unit that is supposed to fight corruption. He gave a saying that if a dog, that a disease that kills a dog, or a disease that prevents a dog from smelling is the same disease that prevents is the same disease that kills the dog. Mu Luganda nti olumbe olugana embwa okuwunyiriza lwe lumu lwe lugigaana lwe lugitta. Kitegeeza nti if the Nakalema team or unit cannot be able to smell the thieves inside the unit, that means the same disease that is going to kill it.
Well, at the end of the day, he has a lot of fleas to pick from that particular dog, and we hope they can get a cure for that sooner or later, because we need service delivery.
True.
Now, looking at the projection that was made in line with this particular manifesto delivery, we're looking at Museveni getting a 47 projection in the 2021 general elections. Now, see, whenever the presidential polls start, there's usually a projection of the polls. The projection that says if the polls were held in March, because now those projections were held in March. See, if the polls were held in March, Museveni would get this % of people's votes, and then Bobby Wine would get this and Besigye would get this percentage of people's votes. Now, when we look at the polls that were released in March, and people said if the elections were held in March, Museveni would get 47% of the vote, Bobby Wine would get 22% of the vote, and Besigye would get 17% of the vote. Now, Chris, when you look at these projections, we're looking at a place where, of course, Museveni rules, okay? And then we're having Bobby Wine come second, and then Besigye come third. We did not think, at the time when Besigye was the ruling opposition leader, we actually never thought that Bobby Wine or any other person would come and take over from Besigye. Because when you looked at opposition, Besigye was the thing, okay? And then now he's getting 17% of the projections. Although Bobby Wine came up and said, these projections are actually there to scare people. And it's a plot by NRM to show people that NRM is on top. However, when we look at the voting demography of Uganda, the youth, especially the youth that make 77% of the country, are in support of Bobby Wine because he's youthful and because of what he represents as the so-called ghetto president. Now, if we go back to Museveni, Museveni is popular in the rural population and rural urban, semi-urban population. Now, when you look at Besigye and the demographics of Besigye, Besigye had taken over the urban population. What we call the educated population that understood the politics of the opposition.
The need for change.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the people in the village, we're seeing electricity in our villages. We are seeing the road network is better. The health system hasn't been too good and hasn't been too bad either. Now, Latifa Hamid from a rural village, deep in the village, will appreciate because security is important. And that's one of the things that the president has managed to take over, is the fact that, see, the older population understand what insecurity is. We've come from an era of Idi Amin. We've come from an era of Obote. We've come from an era of
Joseph Kony as well.
And now we are seeing that I can move in the streets of my town and no one will approach me with a gun. Of course, the LDU situation was there. But I mean, that is the biggest upload that the NRM government has received, and that is security, and that's what they have been playing on for the rest of their time in power.
Well, it is true that the government has really done a lot in this period of the 2016-2021.
20 years.
At least I can see that the rural electrification project has really moved on. We have some villages that have electricity. Even where I come from, Nakasongola, it is just recently, I think beginning of this year, that we managed to get electricity. But for all those years that we have been voting General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni into power, we didn't have electricity. And to me, in my own analysis, I think it's the reason as to why people have been voting the president into power, because people are still, there are people in Uganda who still believe that, yes, President Museveni yatuleetera otulo.
Yes.
So what yagala kuddayo mugiri emirembe olina okulonda ani President Museveni. So the reason as to why that you see the opposition getting more votes from the urban centers.
Yes.
First of all, people in the urban centers are more informed. They have access to information.
Yes.
They know the need for change. They know the value of democracy.
Yes.
They know the value of equal share in terms of jobs, in terms of service delivery. So if you have your relative here, they can compare what happens in Kampala and what happens in other villages.
Yes.
So you find that some places have been kept in the dark for so many years. Until they are just waking up recently when gabafunye ku masanyalaze lwotandise okulaba nti kituufu. There's need for change.
Yes, there's need for change.
And techikwewunyisa Latifa okulaba nti Bobby Wine represents the majority who constitute 77% of the national population. I am talking about the youth.
Yes.
When you look at the challenges that President Museveni brought on table in the early 1981, when he went to the bush, when you look at the challenges they are taken to table, they really represented the youth of that of
That
then.
time,
Yes. And when you look at the challenges that the youth are facing, apparently, they are totally different. We have challenges that have been brought up by the internet that the previous solutions cannot be valid in the current situation.
Yes.
So we need somebody, or there's need for somebody who can bring solutions that represent the challenges of the current
However,
problems.
surprisingly, there are youth out there who are supporting Museveni, who say, regardless of what happens, I am 18 years, I am 28 years, but I will support President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, because we have seen the things he has done on a general note. Educated youth have seen what President Museveni have done, and they're asking themselves a question: will the things that President has done, the milestone that he has walked, will Chagulanyi be able to walk these milestones? A lot of people believe that age is an important factor when it comes to experience. People believe that age is an important factor. And I mean, look at the education system. Ugandans are educated.
Look,
very
Latifa,
much.
it's true.
Just a second, Simon, because I know where you're coming from. But a lot of youths are educated. There was a time when my mother's stopped in P7, my father stopped in P5, and we have the chance to reach up to university. We have Bonaba Some projects. But even though there's unemployment, Simon Chris Makanga, we have to applaud the fact that we have the papers in our hands and we're able to leave Uganda, although that shouldn't be the ideal Uganda. But I mean, we have the opportunity to leave Uganda and go work abroad with our papers from university that we've
which
studied.
I call voluntary slave trade.
Well, unfortunately, you have to look for money where there is money. There's unemployment in Uganda, and if there's need to go out there and look for money, then you better go and do it. But again, like we said earlier, this is not the Uganda we envision in 2021 and in the next 5 years of elections. We envision a Uganda where people build Uganda and buy Uganda. So we work in our country to build it to a better projection of what we want to see it look like.
There's one thing I heard you say, that there are some youth who are pro the NRM regime. And I tried to do a survey or a study on the number of youth who are so supportive of the current regime. Ninga, what thing I came to realize that majority of them are just patronage to the regime. Omusanganga wagira government.
Yes.
Eriko. I'm not saying it's bad to support the current regime, and I'm speaking this from evidence.
Freedom of speech and freedom of choice.
Exactly. Ojasanga omuvubuka nga wagira NRM party. N'omubuuza lwaki ogiwagira. Nti because alina kaafunamu.
Politics of money. We've talked about that before. Politics of money. Very widespread, and it's the kind of politics we run in Uganda.
So politics has been commercialized. Nti omuntu ajja wagira ekibiina naye ng'alina kyakola kyabala. Osanga omuyimbi avudde mu buyimbi agenda mu politics, omubuuze naye obala ki sente. Omuntu ateeka billions and billions of shillings in the campaigns. Naye ng'abala ki wali waatuka okukola decision agenda funamu. Sente zaataddemu oyinza okwesanga agenda funamu kuliko neki amagoba. Amazija vaayo nga kuliko n'amagoba. So that is the level of politics that we have reached in the country. Nti n'omulonzi has also become a challenge. Nti ogenda tunda akalulu ku nkumi ezo.
And that is why I was hoping that the 2021 campaigns that are going to happen were actually going to be electronic. Really, I was looking forward to seeing a more electronic campaign. But now you told me that the Electoral Commission explained that we're going to have a hybrid kind of
I was speaking to Mr. Paul Bukenya, the current Public Relations Officer, Electoral Commission. Nangamba nti tugenda kubeera ne campaign ngeza bulijjo. Wabula enjawulo egenda okubeerawo nti bw'oba olina rally ojja kuwandiikira Electoral Commission, owandiikire police ne Minister of Health okuwa guidelines nti bw'oba ng'olina ekisaawe ky'ogenda okubamu campaign kijja kwetaagisa owandiike bakuwe SOPs and the number of people you will need to be present. You say it is going to happen.
No, I'm asking you, Simon Chris Makanga, do you see that happening? What is the reality of actually having people in a crowd in a field, keeping social distancing and putting on masks during a campaign where Bobi Wine is standing and speaking? Tell me
I don't see it happening, because when you look at the people power presser they've been holding, not
only people power, all the political parties.
I'm giving an example that I've seen myself. Nti ogenda mu people power presser. If you're to count the number of people putting on masks, you can't lose your fingers. It is 1, 2, 3, 4 people, and the rest do not have any mask. There's no any form of social distancing. So chikulagira wawe tulaga.
That's what I'm saying.
Kati Bobi Wine tajasobola kuba rally or aleme kunganya abantu. You saw what happened in Bujiri.
Yes.
I mean in Mbale. You saw what happened in Shema. So ebikulagirawo nti the best we can do is to have the normal campaigns.
Okay, well, going into our third headline of the day, and that is Uganda registers the 7th COVID-19 death. Now, Chris, the 7th COVID-19 death is a 49-year-old female in Wakiso. However, in a lot of the deaths that we have seen in the COVID-19 situation is that, and that was talked about yesterday, is that most of these people have a precondition that leads to their death. And that is something with COVID-19 that I would say is not as scary, but still scary that we have started registering deaths, is that, see, everybody who has died from COVID-19 has a precondition. We've had asthma, we've had pneumonia, we've had tuberculosis,
now we've had
HIV AIDS. Now all those things are happening and all those things are being said, and that means for those who have a stronger immune system, then it's rare that COVID-19 will get
it
them.
is so sad that now we've registered the 7th death case. It is really so sad as a nation, because it's not even a month that we have 7 cases.
The projections were one
7
after
death
the other,
cases, yes. So the projection, like you said, is one after the other. Chikulagira where we are going, and there are tough times ahead.
Definitely.
It calls for us to be extra conscious about ourselves. Kubaka kino kyava ku mikono gya government. Chadda erife abantu. Nti tuyina kola kikwebereramu. If you do not want to contact COVID-19, put on a mask. Maintain the social distancing. Bulaba ngogenda yingira tax. Ninga abantu bambadde mask. Have yourself on. Have the mask on yourself. Bera ne ka sanitizer.
Definitely.
Like you said, this disease, when it had just appeared, I took time off and read about it. And I've had several comments in regards to COVID-19. And what people say, what doctors say, it is a disease that can be fought by your body immunity.
Yes.
So bobirango inamu ezo other illnesses, omuli HIV, omuli tuberculosis, all those other illnesses
Asthma,
that weaken your immunity. It is so much important you take extra care of yourself. Or you need to have immune boosters. And the Minister of Health recommended lemons. Lemons and a glass of water. Or that will help you boost your immunity.
The symptoms are like flu. So that's why they recommend vitamin C, and they recommend a lot of fruits and lemon to drink in tea. And also, it was recommended, apparently, that hydrochloroquine is what is used to treat COVID-19. And for us, we're questioning that because the different reports that are coming up, there's a doctor that had said, don't be scared, hydrochloroquine treats COVID-19. But again, that is also being questioned. Now, with 1,267 positive cases of COVID-19, we're not too far from the recoveries that are at 1,115, which is not such a big number. And our deaths are still at 7, which is a good thing. But Chris, if you look at, Andrew Mwenda had sore throats about last week, and he released the video showing that there were people behind him, there were medics behind him who had gone to check him for COVID-19 and see if he was positive. And Ugandans play too much. Ugandans were saying that Andrew Mwenda knew that he could be positive for COVID-19 and went into the People Power offices to get a card and then infect other people. Because now, if Andrew Mwenda tests positive, that means everybody who
a number of people are going to be taken under quarantine. Well, that is a conspiracy theory, but the rumor mills are spinning and the streets are also talking.
They are.
Meanwhile, Latifa, as we wind up from this topic,
Yes.
one thing I've come to realize that the Minister of Health needs to empower the local clinics or the local health centers. Because when you look at all these deaths, they don't die in the hands of the Ministry of Health. They die in the hands of local clinics or private doctors. So there's need to empower them. Well, I was speaking to their chairman, chairman private clinics. That is the name has skipped my mind. But I was speaking to, we met at the Electoral Commission, and then Nemugamba, why are the private clinics being empowered? Because butulaba dates zino ezizinga abantu bafa COVID-19 bafira mu malwaliro g'obwannannyini. How much effort are you going to put in okulaba nga you are also able to do the tests? Kuba oyingira mu ddwaliro tomanyi omuntu alina flu, alina just these normal symptoms, but you don't know whether the person has COVID and they are not capable of testing COVID-19.
Well, like that is a very strong point that we have been discussing time and time again, is that they need to empower these local clinics to make sure that if there's a COVID-19, can we have at least 5 test kits in those local clinics to ensure that we don't have such issues? Because one thing that we've noted is that, one, the deaths are widespread. We have Mbale, we have Western Uganda, we have Kampala Central, and then we have, if you look at the age difference between the deaths that happened in the country, because there was the 49-year-old who has just died. 3 days ago, we had the 70-year-old male who was a resident of Natete. On 3rd August, we had the 46-year-old woman of Indian origin in Chibuli. And then on 1st August, we have the 65-year-old female from Mengo Hospital. And the list goes on because now on July 29th, we had the 67-year-old. And then we had the 80-year-old on 27th July. And then on 23rd July, we had the 34-year-old. Now, if you look at the statistics of the people who have died so far, we're looking at different age, brackets, and you cannot whatsoever say, I am a youth, erasigenda kufa from COVID-19. It doesn't choose. So we have to be careful. Now that we have a hybrid election happening in the country, we have to be extra careful that we take care of ourselves, because you want change. You're looking forward to change. You be that change and make sure that when you're voting, you're safe enough to vote and see the change that you have voted for.
I always remind people about this, that NCA Gulamirambo Nenga Temuli Mugugo, and for now the Fashion is going to be taking a very short break, and we do return with the topic of discussion. For now, it's a good morning.
Abalamuzi babagamba, if the incumbent president frustrates all democratic means to leave power, temusibayo muntu n'omu ku treason. This is why Besigye is released. Museveni ekibi kyalina talina mawulire. Nawandika n'ekitabo kyange, the role of which could have been a malicious society. Sapule njijjamu.
Noyingire sabo.
Katonda wa bujja. Nze Katonda w'obujja. Bw'oba olaga eri, sapule twegitwala. Omusajja omubbi bamujje ewuwe ewaka kabanga lyezi, ne bamujje ewuwe ewaka yabadde mu ttooyi, naye tebamukiriza na tusanitize. Bamutadde butese mu piikaavu mu State House. Naye omukyayina bwe yawulidde nti ono bamukutte, yeesize kiwi, yayitiddeko yadduse ng'omuddugavu.
Bampita Dr. Franklin Mondo Mugisha wano ku STV biri ku makyakera nange nga twogera ku nsonga ez'enjawulo, engeri tusobola okwezimba mu ggwanga lyaffe, engeri tusobola okuzimba gye tubeera gye tuva, wategedde obwavu lwa kibuluma, mikwano gy'abaavu baani, otambula otya, osula otya, Okusalawo okwo okw'obulamu kutandikira ku nfuna yo. Emikwano gy'abagagga n'abaavu tusobola ogitegeera no ku STV. Tugenda kwogera ku nsonga z'aba Queen. Tutambula tutya kukyusa omulembe gw'abawala baffe kubanga bafuuka bavunaanyizibwa era nga bakozi nga banoonyi ba kikumi. Tugenda kwogera ku bakanyama bazimba batya emibiri y'omubiri bwe gulimu ssente oba bwe bulamu bwe twetaaga. Omukazi tasobola kuleka musajja w'emmotoka mukaaga mbu akwate 6 pack amufune mbu batambule naye wano ku STV. Big network. See ya.
Hey guys, you're watching STV. Select for fun.
We are hiring. The station seeks to recruit competent and trustworthy sales executive to grow advertising sales volume and reach its business targets. Key responsibilities include discovering and pursuing new sales prospects, negotiating deals through maintaining customer satisfaction, growth of TV portfolio, good proposal writing skills, impeccable integrity, and passion for the station. Qualifications: bachelor degree or diploma in business-related course. If you meet the requirements, please submit your application, detailed CV, and academic documents at Sky Complex located along Buziga Road. Note: only shortlisted candidates will be contacted.
Olw'ogwoto lwa waaka.
The first show with me, Latifa, and a team of 2 men on either side of me. I know you're wondering who the other man is because, I mean, in the beginning of the show, there was me and Simon Chris Makanga, but hey, we're full of surprises on the first show. Well, welcome back. For those who have been with us, we've been discussing the topics of the day, the different topics that made the headlines last week, and now we're coming into the main topic of discussion, and that is the NRM candidates floating COVID-19 guidelines while the opposition are being arrested for the same crime, and that is the topic we'll be dealing with. However, before we go there, the Kampala capital city is now looking at distribution of masks in the city itself. We've had the delivery of 2 million masks to around 2 million people, and the occasion that started on Friday will end on Sunday with an extra day that will be put forward for those who missed masks. Remember, 6 years and above household will have the delivery of the mask. Simon Chris Makanga, Dr. Mondo, I am glad to have you guys with me, especially you, who has joined us finally. Finally!
I really want to apologize to people, to the viewers. Good morning. Today is a man morning. We are up and strong.
Energetic, yeah.
Energetic, always strong.
I love
if
it.
you go downtown, we say Nabidi, Namutima,
Nachi.
Nalo. We're back this morning. Good morning, everybody who's watching us live here. We're here on STV. We think that today is going to be a beautiful day, and your week is going to be so great. And we know that the Almighty God is going to lead you in each and everything that you're going to do.
Amen.
Doesn't matter where you are, your faith, things are going to be very better.
Amen.
I'm sorry I came late because I had a puncture. I don't know what happened, but Latifa could have, and Simon, they could have taken me to all those villages, and I got a nail in my tie. So, but these guys anyway, we live like a family, so we had gone somewhere to look for what to eat. Matoke with Simon.
I don't think I did.
Yeah, so this morning, but I apologize for coming late, but it's going to be great. It's going to be super. It's going to be so powerful. It's going to be nice.
Well, welcome to the show officially, and before you came in, we were discussing quite a number of stories that made rounds of headlines the previous week, and one of them I want you to comment shortly was the Minister of Health confirmed the 7th death case in the country. What does that mean when we are almost heading into the election campaigns?
Campaigns.
What does that mean to Uganda?
Well, let's talk about campaigns. Campaigns cannot be defined now because we haven't known the methodology that they're going to use to campaign. But let's go back to reality. There are two partners that are very essential the government has ignored to look at. Is to empower and educate and do civic education to local people and local authorities.
Yeah.
The LC is actually to start with.
Yes.
And to have a health practitioner on every village. Really, it is very possible for us to have a health practitioner on the LC, on the LC board. That when this happens, what do we do? So what do the Ministry of Health need to do? To empower and have kits distributed on every village. That is what I was looking at. And then we see how we can, if anything happens, this number is going to be called. That's one. A health practitioner will have to call. Arise with Health Center 3 or Health Center 4, because now at every district and every Gombra level we have Health Center 3 and Health Center 4. And then these people have an ambulance that they deal on the district level, and then they come and pick up the patient. And of course, what to avoid? Civic education will tell you, when you find and dictate that this person is not well, do the necessary. Vacate the place. Number 2, find out how many people has he or she been in touch with.
Yes.
I'll tell you something. A friend of mine from United States got COVID, and he was told he was COVID. He's one of the actors. And when he discovered that, he threw away his family. He said, I cannot be with you. You have to get me in this room, get everything out of this room. And then he had to isolate himself for about 20 days. That is very possible. And of course, if we don't do civic education, starting from the local government level, you know, we're going to have
I think the ministry has also relaxed in regards to that, because when you look at the story I covered a week ago, ngasi walanyo wano mu Kisenyi mu Kampala wakati, which is extremely congested. Chandaga nti eri abantu abawulira obuwulizi COVID tebamanyi signs and symptoms, tebamanyi in case owuliddeko oba owulidde mu Kasenyi gobaki tebalina kumanya olagawa. And that tells into cases zonna zetulaba, all the death cases zivudde mu private clinics. Nti omuntu awuliramu just changes mu mubiri gwe n'agenda mu ddwaliro. Naye mu ddwaliro gy'abatuuse ogenda sanga abantu ameka bagenda obeera infected. Quite a number. And it's going to be a challenge in tracing the contact persons.
That is the biggest problem you're going to have. Because on every COVID-19 death, you're counting 200 contacts and more. Because out of these 200 contacts on every death, the 200 contacts have contacts. And everybody, as a human right, everybody is going to vote. Everybody has to vote. Now, apart from the voters, we are now looking at the members of parliament, the aspirants as well, and the president said that each one of them has to test for COVID-19. Now, how truthful will the results be when they come back? Now, that is a question that a lot of people are asking. So when we're looking at all these things, COVID-19 versus, because Electoral Commission says we're going to have hybrid elections. We're going to have on-ground campaigns,
by the Minister
and we're going to have electoral. I mean, how realistic is that?
Tikisoko rensonga nti dynamics is playing mu bintu bino oba amanya ga playing mu nsonga zino yanjawulo. Naye nga bwe njogedde nti civic education bino bintu bijja kwanguwa nnyo ng'abantu baffe basomeseddwa bategeezeddwa okuva ku mutindira gwa wansi okubanga abantu bategeera nti bwe tusomesa gavumenti bwe singa ezuuka netegeera nti abantu bwe kubeera empowered singa kuli ku kyalo kuliko abasawo babiri aba gavumenti nga basobola ku kyalo in actual sense nga balina kits. Number 1 ezambala, number 2 ezipima, number 3 eziraga nti COVID waali. Then n'abasawo nga balina essimu kubanga waliwo amasimu ge bassa kugombolola ku buli gombola yonna kuliko essimu mu ofisi ya RDC ekola response, waliko ambulance esobola okuyamba omuntu wa bulijjo ali wansi. Kati bwe tutakwata abantu bano ne tuba empowering abasokuva mu kyalo tugenda kuba n'ekizibu. Number 2, Butambala buno kati bwafuuka mask simanyi lwaki mask bazigabira maani simanyi kuba batugamba gula mask fina twagula mask buli ayingira mu kibuga basobola kutusibirako toyingira nga tolina mask. Are you getting my point? Akati masks zino bazigabira baani? That's also another question. Baba waddabo buvunanyizibwa wa gavumenti ndina okutuukiriza ekyo. So ebyo nabijja. Number 2, abantu kuba n'obuvunanyizibwa obwabwe nti bwewuliramu kiyego bwewuliramu nga waliwo ekizibu ekikuliko Latifa ng'ozuukuse ku makya n'owulira nga you've woken up
on the wrong side
senyiga nga akutte. It is okay. Ekyokubiri nti kits zino zijja kuba ziri available ne ku bantu ba bulijjo. In actual sense yesterday but one nagambye nti njagala kufuna kits ezitesinga COVID-19 because there are many ways. Oba sobola kutestinga olubuto, sobola kutestinga omusujja, oba kutestinga COVID-19. It's all very much possible.
Yes.
Very possible. Until we must simplify as we go along to find a way how we can have these kits. Tunula kwa abantu nga banaffe bali abambadde engejje bambaddemu ezo kits singa ziba ku kyalo nga kuliko na sprayinga akusprayinga tova kwata ku muntu wa COVID, you find that life is going to be much more better.
But truth
naye waliwo abantu ab'omu kisenyi wala abantu bange b'omu ghetto abantu abo engeri gye bategeramu ebintu yanjawulo n'engeri gye bakorespondingamu. Ate ekyokubiri waliwo n'ekirala nti biri MP yagula ambulance ku kyalo. Do you know that? Jakia government nebiri MOP yerwanako n'agula ambulance ku kyalo. Kitegeeza nti access and transport okuva ku kyalo kutuuka ku health center 3 health center 4 ambulance weeri naye kibulawo kiki twekusomesa abantu baffe. Number 1. Number 2, okuba n'obuvunanyizibwa nga bwabwe nti bwe wewuliramu nze I've not been sick for last 26 years tebankubanga mpiso 26 full years.
Strong immune system.
Sekyuka n'okwewala okulya ebintu ebitatugasa. Waliwo emmere si buli kyoyise ekizibu kyaffe n'emmere gye tulya. Kwegamba omaze ngamba nti abantu abalwadde be bantu abakola mu kibuga Kampala Kabalagala n'ayita mpa amagi ne gayita mpa chapati n'ayita mpa tomanya afumbye tomanya bifumbye n'ebudde bw'oliiramu emmere nabo bumatalinga. But that's a different story altogether. Nti oteeka okumanya how to look after your full life. Number 2, n'okumanya ebigira by'olya ne age. Ebyo ono mu Kampala ne mu Uganda tebiriiwo. Waliwo emmere gy'olya mu myaka gyayo, waliwo emmere gy'olya mu budde bwayo. The structuring your life is very important. Ate sinjala biro kulumya n'okulya. That is also very important. But let's go back to the issue ya COVID-19. Abantu bafate kusomesebwa. Knowledge is
very
power.
Important.
Knowledge
By
is
the way,
very important.
Dr. Mondo and Latifa, one thing I've come to realize, by local chairpersons, or chairman w'oku kyalo, were not involved in the fight against COVID-19. Let me drive this home.
There's something I've just remembered to go away. Engeri gye bali bagaba mmere Simon. Abantu we bakungana. If they had 5 minutes of civic education to everywhere they gave food, what would have happened, Simon?
It would have worked.
You can go ahead.
Well, it's not too late. It's not too late. We have the distribution of masks that are ongoing, and this is their chance. Now, a lot of people are wondering, what is Latifa holding in her hands? Producer Husna, if you could zoom it in a little bit and show us what exactly we have in our hands. I'm actually holding the government of Uganda. It's right here, the government of Uganda masks. Now, these are the masks that are being distributed to Ugandans out there. This is the mask that you're going to see. I'm going to pass this around. Simon Chris, you're going to touch the mask, and Dr. Mondo, you're going to touch the masks. Because one of the issues that people have raised about these masks, they're distributing 22 million masks to 16 years and above. 77% of the population is 16 years and above, you know, but 16 years mostly. Now, we're looking at these masks that are being distributed, and a lot of people have complaints that are saying the quality of the mask is not good. We have it in our hands and we are touching it. The quality of the mask is not good. That is one of the issues that people are raising up. And the local councils are saying that the masks that were given to them to distribute to the people is also not enough. Now, I mean, take back the camera to Dr. Mondo, who is holding the mask and literally making a joke out of it. What is so funny?
Tesobola kujja ku mutwe gwa
mask wa
makiki ayo makiki oyo mchala wange yagala makiki w'emyaka 8 haja katalaba namugulide TV namugulide
kati akulaba ngoli ku TV
katandaba obazo kusibaje.
But let's pick the realities about this mask.
Do you think this is a mask?
Now, this is the mask that they put 49 billion Ugandan shillings in producing these masks that we are looking at right now.
You can't even.
And we're expected to put them 24/7.
Tata, kino ekintu Makanga. Chikankana.
For the vulnerable poor.
Am I seeing the two colors of threads? Because I'm seeing yellow and then I'm seeing red. That shouldn't be the concern. But I mean, if we're producing, can we produce quality as Ugandans?
Before I do my comment on this. Before I throw my comment on this, I was still saying about how local chairpersons have been left behind in the fight against COVID-19. Botunulio bojukira nnyo distribution ya kawunga. RDC bamu empowering. Nga yali fully involved in the distribution of portion beans. Na hii RDC abantu bamanyi ku kyalo batono nnyo okusinga chairman. Omuntu adiringa n'abantu ku kyalo ye chairman wo ku kyalo. Gwe batawa maanyi kusensitizing abantu. Katuze ku kya mask. Chikudira ddala ku kya bintu bawandika ku buwunga nti for the vulnerable poor, not for sale. But tunira ddala mask eno. Who is going to put on that mask?
I mean, we have people who have made better masks. Nitel was one of the biggest contributors in making these masks. But I mean, look at the quality. Is it really Nitel? Chris, you have done us a favor that every story we have done during the first show, you've gone on ground and you've done the story. I want us to go to Nitel and do a projection of how these masks are made and then compare them to the mask we have in our hands right now.
One thing, maybe what I like about it,
to the masks.
What I like about this mask, it's reusable. Nti ogenda jigula lumu, it is washable. Nti ogula todamu kugula. Oyoza n'ogolola n'oddamu n'oyambala. But to be honest, when you look at the amount of money that was injected in coming up with, we didn't expect something like this.
Better.
At least I think I do have a mask on me, if I'm not mistaken. I usually keep one.
The STV mask should be one of the masks that we are.
This is for emergency because I was tired of buying masks almost every single day. So when you look at this is just a 2,000 shillings mask. But at least it's worth it. When you look at the quality, this is also rewashable. You look at this, we needed something at least slightly similar to this.
Wow. But at the same time, the government should rethink. I don't know where National Bureau of Standards is. I don't know if they have endorsed this. I have not seen their sign on.
Go to Kugamba and wale kick budget once. So we need accountability for this, to be honest. And still, this goes back to the office of the Prime Minister. People donated a lot of money. I think it's a high time we demanded for accountability. Sente ezo abantu ze donatinga to the extent inti companies zimu za donatinga nezimala nezisala n'abakozi emirimu.
Tata kitegeza nekanze ndimeki kangu nekiego bokwata ntobuza accountability in Prime Minister's office. I think the first person should be coming up is National Bureau of Standards. National Bureau of Standards should be the one to ask the Prime Minister's office. What
is going on? How far with the project? Budget,
how budget over your budget. So I think that we should be looking at the way they've been made. We don't want to look at the company that did this, Nitel, that they did a fake work, but I'll tell you the truth. This is not right. It's not applicable to any human way.
Yes.
At any human standard. I know there have been a lot of pressure for them to make those masks. Phone calls, I believe, have been on. But we must look at the way our people are going to consume. What are people going to consume? If you did this in America, next day you'll be in the prison.
Definitely.
The next day you'll be in prison. If you did this in South Africa, it'll be done. But when will Uganda move off from that kind of syndrome of working? I know.
Now let the mask distribution guide us to our topic of discussion. Because our topic of discussion now is the 2021 general campaigns, and the NRM General Secretary Justice Martin Kasule Lumumba, asking police to arrest all those that flout the COVID-19 guidelines, be it NRM, be it opposition. Because we have seen a number of NRM officials who have floated these guidelines and have security right by them, standing right by them, protecting them, and standing when they're floating the COVID-19 measures. Now, the opposition people, like Chagulanyi, has come up to say, when I went to Jinja, there was police all over, tear gas and live bullets. When I came back to Kampala, we still had the same running. But when we saw people like Evelyn, being in Koboko, and then people are surrounding her, Anita being in Koboko, people are surrounding her, and look at that. Look at what is happening. How many people are there without masks, with no social distancing, moving in that crowd? And Simon Chris Makanga is
Was this last year or was this year?
It was very recent. That is why they had to come up and speak about it. Very recent in Koboko, it happened. And we've seen also Dr. Ruth Acheng being put on the platform for what she did when she went and spoke to her people. Same thing. A lot of crowds getting together with no masks, with no COVID-19 guidelines, and now we think hybrid
maybe that lorry has doctors and nurses. That could be an ambulance.
Now, for me, the funny part about this conversation is it's not only Evelyn who has been caught in that kind of, situation. We've had Professor Ephraim Kamuntu, who was also caught in that same situation. We have Rebecca Kadaga, who was caught in the same situation. We have Charles Engola, who was also caught in the same situation. Now, these are too many names of the ruling party to be floating COVID-19 measures and then saying we're enforcing rules. Opposition Temusawala.
Of course, I think that the picture put across for the ruling party, chibateka matiga okusobola kubanga mbamanya nti bwe mugamba abantu mukungana, you are the law keeper. Exactly. Let me just give you a very simple an example. Nti olunaku lwaleero singa bakuwa license y'emmundu, emmundu olowooza nti yekukuuma gw'ogikuuma, because at every minute you have to have it somewhere here. You have to know actually where it is. Whether you're sick or alive, you need to know where your gun is. In the same time, nti bwe bamuwanga muli mu buyinza, mwe mulina okuba nga mu-enforcing amateeka. Era njagala gamba abantu abali mu movement nti your being in power puts you in a position okubanga okuuma etteeka nga tolimenya. Because this is your party. This is who you are. This is what you are.
True.
Yeah, so to me, I'm thinking that that should be the done deal, that they should be looking into. But Honorable Lumumba saying that it's a pure joke. They should arrest him. You're not going to arrest Kadaga. Just forget about it. This is a mere talk. And they can caution them anyway. But I'm telling you what, if this goes on and on and on, two things are going to happen. Now opposition will get chikola. True. So what's going to happen? You're giving police a hard time to bring out what they're supposed to do. Yeah, and they will be looked at as bias police, because now you're arresting one party and leaving out the other party. However, Justin says that the police itself that is not arresting the likes of Kadaga should also be arrested. Well, we're not doing that job.
Dr. Mondo and Latifa, English has it that what is good for the goose is good for gander. So what exactly is happening in the NRM party should also happen in other political parties. Techikola makulu kulabanga convoy yanite ngabo balabya abantu. Nga batambula freely.
She's going to be voted. That's what I'm
Besides
thinking.
all that,
agenda kuangula.
Well, according to according to her Twitter, ando yadaga mbiyeti yabadde personally ne yabadde asindiseyo ambulance. So abantu b'okukyalo babadde basanyukidde ambulance yabadde abaweereza. But ngabo osanyukira bwegala abantu bakusanyukire ku ambulance. Kiriza n'abalala bagenze ku radio station okwogera. Leka nabo bakoleki. Boogere. Oli wabayitawo ng'abantu bamukubira kajjambo. Muleke nabo bakoleki. Baba bamukubire kajjambo. At sooner than later, we are going to go Burundi way. Burundi went into an election amidst the pandemic, and they've still contained it. Kubaka kino kine kiriwo kati sawa zino kitulagirako ddala nti like it or not, we are going to have the real campaigns.
However, we should not just depend on the Ministry of Health to pass these messages of COVID-19. We have the politicians themselves. I mean, Bobby Wine, if you're going to Ginger to campaign, to speak on a radio station, can it be one of your discussion points to talk about COVID-19 and how your people should stay home and listen to you on a radio station? Can they take that as their personal initiative to discuss this?